That. Good morning, welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. It is Thursday, isn't it? No, it's Wednesday. What the fuck am I thinking? It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Oh yeah, it's a holiday tomorrow. Do you know what? See, when it's a holiday, you forget what on earth you're meant to be doing. Every day just goes into one, isn't it? And especially over here, you got a holiday at the start of the week, well, obviously the power cut, and then we've got a holiday, and then there's a bridge day, so you take the Friday off. Anyway, are you off this weekend? It is the May Day weekend. It's an absolutely cracking tune. Terminator May Day. It's an absolutely brilliant tune. Let me just get the text. That's what I'm looking for. As I just talk over this, how you all this morning? There's a few bits of Celtic news this morning. Obviously, the one that broke last night was the fact that the SPFL have turned down the opportunity to expand the league. So, do you like and enjoy? And the SPFL. That's kind of the question of the day, because, as fans, once again, we're just getting told, sit down, shut up and enjoy it. When we've done a poll on the live. If you are watching this on replay and you don't see the live chat should be on the side of the screen. There was a poll, and as it currently sits, there's been 46 votes. Do you enjoy the 4 games a season format against every other team in the SPFL? Now, in the comment section, to the ones that say yes, tell me why you enjoy it. That's a serious question. So as it's sitting at the moment, there's 49 votes now, and 22% say yes, they enjoy the 4 games a season format. A serious question. I want to create some conversation about this, because I think that it has to be, if the SPFL chiefs, if the club chiefs aren't going to change things, there has to be a discussion within fans. Now, they always go on about fans being in partnership. We're not in partnership, we're just customers, and they're there to milk as much money as they can out of us. And if you are if you do enjoy the 4 games a season format, tell me why in the comment section below the video, or if you're on the live chat, tell me. But as it currently sits, 77% say no, they don't enjoy the 4 games a season format. Anyway, let's jump into some of the comments and see what people are saying. Before we talk about, I noticed that one of the publications, after us been talking about it over the last couple of months, they've named the nine players, 9 paydays that could earn Celtic a pretty chunk of cash, describing it as a leave the summer war chest busting. I don't think Celtic have ever said war chest, have they? That was always a thing that came out of Ibrox. Their war chest, our fucking war chest. We just hang out the flags of war and then turn up on the pitch and do our talking on the pitch and win leagues and championships and cups. That's what you do, your talking. None of this bullshit. I mean, I don't know who the guy is, but a war chest? I don't think Celtic have ever described transfer budget as war chest. That's a throwback to the 1990s and the war of words, the war of attrition between ourselves, the media, and the old Rangers before they went burst and died, and then they fucking cried and cried and cried. Oh yes, they cried. Anyway, let's jump into the comments and we'll go back to the transfer budget. But the SPFL come out and said that the competitions working group met on the 29th of April to discuss the possibility of league reconstruction. It was agreed that there was no reasonable prospect of achieving a consensus around a new format for the William Hill Premiership. So there must have been teams within inside the SPFL wanted to make it bigger. There may be 1 or 2 teams that wanted to make it smaller. And the fact that they couldn't get a consensus around a new format, I think it's disappointing. And one of them that's made it is the point is the St Mirren, the St Johnstone. He wanted to make the league bigger, obviously to try and save himself. Can you remember the time that they did it before, when Aberdeen were going to go down, and they changed the league that season for Aberdeen to then stay up? However, the board was in agreement around potential changes to the William Hill Championship, the League 1 and League 2. These will be worked up with a view to conducting a consultation with clubs and stakes. How can the SPFL... This is what annoys people in Scotland about the Scottish League format. Why should the SPFL have any say whatsoever on what the hell happens in the Championship, the League 1 and League 2? We should have no say. That should come from the SFA. I thought the SFA ran Scottish football. I mean, the fact that they've had an SPFL competitions working group, it's a group of 12 folk that have met round the table and said, right, who wants a bigger league? Oh, just me then. Who wants a smaller league? 2 hands. Who wants to keep the same? Majority. Fucking nonsense, isn't it? Sefco's war chest has inverted nipples, said Kaiser. There's that. Can you see the Rangers now? Nope. Our war chest is droopy. Every team below the split in the SPFL should be relegated or included in playoffs. Stephen Johnson says, hey Baz and everyone, I apologise for leaving early last night. Stephen, we know that you have medical issues. Don't apologise for anything, mate. Don't apologise for anything. You have no need to apologise whatsoever. It looks like we may have just sold a t-shirt. Anyway, getting back to the plans and the agreement around potential changes to the William Hill Championships, League 1 and League 2. Why should the SPFL have any influence on that at all? The mind boggles. Changes being discussed were in a bid to manage fixture congestion. A 14-team league would have maintained the prospect of the Glasgow, Edinburgh and Dundee derbies. There we hit the nail on the head. That's it. Greedy bastards want to keep Sky deal because then they know that they get the money for the 4 derbies, and that's it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't care what fans think. They wanted to keep at a minimum a 14-team option to maintain 4 derbies a season, and that's it. And the only reason that they want to maintain 4 derbies a season is because that's other clubs, Hearts, they know that they get big paydays out of it because when the Hearts Hibs derbies, they sell full stands to each other. They get full houses. They know that the revenue, merchandise revenue goes up. In-house spending on food goes up on those days. But when when Celtic come to town, some of the home fans stay away. So they actually see an adverse effect because even though they get the increased money from the spending from tickets, the overall revenue around the stadium and food revenue and everything goes down because people aren't coming to the game. It's as simple as that. And I think that's, to coin a phrase by the Sevconian captain, disappointing. It is disappointing that they have went down that line. But anyway, the Sky then going to talk about the fact that, it's funny how Sky, it could have caused issues around those in the bottom half playing more matches than those in the top following the split. This is what it's all about. You're never going to... You've created a monster. The SPFL, and having this small closed group, have now created a monster that they can't get out of. You're never going to get out of an agreement. Until the day the doomsday scenario comes where Sky keeps on reducing the money that it's going to give to Scottish football, that's when the clubs will then decide, do you know what, it's maybe now's time to change. And I think that they'll have left it far too late at that point. I think that they'll have left it far too late. And I think that you will only see, and in all honesty, I mean, they talk about Scottish football having the highest per capita of football attendances. Well, tell that to the owners of said clubs when you turn on to a game and you're seeing half-empty stadiums. And you're seeing half-empty stadiums more often than not in the SPFL. So they're now trying to protect the money that comes from the television. That's the core source of income that they know that they can rely on, consistently rely on. It is the buttons. Please, sir, can I have some? It's the pure buttons that we get from Scottish football. And the worst TV deal in European history. I mean, the TV deal that we have is bound to be League of Ireland standard. It wouldn't surprise me if it's League of Ireland standard, the deal. It's probably a little bit better than that, but it's absolutely nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And I just think, I mean, we spoke about it at length last night, and I know that we're speaking about it today and we're doing a vote about it. But do you really enjoy the 4 games a season format? For the size of Scotland, we should have 2 leagues. 18 top type flight. Yes. Far too small a country to have 4 leagues. When you look at the lower league in Scotland and you look at the attendances, how can these part-time clubs run with an attendance of 160 people? That's not professional football. That's not professional football. They may call themselves a professional club and everything, but it's a part-time club. And it's been going on for 20 odd years, the current format of the Scottish SPFL. And I don't think it's helped at all. Do you think that it's improved the league? And there's a question. Do you think that, we're going to finish up this vote. I'm going to do another one. Let's finish up that one because that's going one way. Because this is the flip side of the coin. I'd say 25. Has the SPFL improved over the last 25 years? Has the standard of football improved over the last 25 years? Think back to when Henrik Larsson was at Celtic, Chris Sutton, John Hartson, and think about the runs from midfield, attacking runs from midfield to score goals. You think about the type of football that was played. Think about the type of football that was played back then in the early 2000s. A lot of us on here are way older than that. We can remember the early 2000s quite easily. And that's the benchmark. That's the benchmark, right? We're going to put early 2000s where you had a bit of competition between Celtic and Rangers. And Chris Sutton said it. Chris Sutton said it. All that we used to worry about back then was winning the league. All that we used to worry about. That was the main objective. Jackie McNamara said it as well. Jackie McNamara and Chris Sutton. 2 players that played through fantastic time at Celtic. One who played through the late part of the 1990s and witnessed everything from being the club that was against the almighty spending, dirty, cheating, tax robbing Deadco to being part of a successful team that went to Seville. Has the game improved since then? The closeness, the gap, they call it the gap these days, the gap that is widened. The league is worse than it was in the early 2000s especially. I think it has. If you think that the SPFL, for those that are saying yes, that you tell me in the comments why you think that the SPFL has improved over the last 25 years. You never had a low block. You never had clubs playing 5-6 at the back. Never had that at all. You had teams that were seriously trying to compete and finish third at a minimum. And I just think that the SPFL having a lot of clubs went through a hard time. Motherwell went through a hard time, went into fan ownership. Gretna in that time had came up through the leagues. Gretna came in that time that were backed by a business owner that wanted to do great things, but they ultimately went into liquidation and died off also. And both Dundee clubs have had financial difficulties over that time. Inverness Caledonian Thistle, who over that period as well had a fantastic run, they're in financial difficulty. And there's lots of clubs, and you could say that paying the players an exuberant amount of cash compared to, that should be another question, are we paying Scottish football players too much for this league, for the standard of the league, for the size of the country, ultimately? But that's a question for another day. Kaz says, Bads, it's a fact. Human development ended in 1999. Think about it. Before then, a generation had movement, rock, bikers, punks, mod, nothing since 1999. It's been stagnant for years. Kaiser, when you can go back through, and you're right, Kaiser, you're completely right. Through the 1970s, you had your mods, your punks. 80s, you had new romantic. The mid 80s, you had the sort of pop culture, and towards the late 80s, you had acid house coming into culture. The acid house scene then moved into the rave scene. The rave scene went through the late 80s to the mid 1990s, which involved a new drug scene throughout the time, and that changed the dynamics of the country, as it did the world. But the SPFL at that time, during that time, rather than progressing and taking steps forwards, they decided to reduce the league and for financial reasons. I just think that it's terrible. That it should have been written into the SPFL when it reduced it to 10. Remember, and then went to 12. It should have been written in SPFL, like it was written in that you had to have a minimum 10,000 seater stadium. Had to have a 10,000 all-seater stadium, grass pitches. They keep changing the rules. It should have been written into law in the SPFL that it was a trial period. And Sky had to know that it was a trial period of, say, 10 years. You've got to take it over a 10-year period and have a financial plan in place for that 10-year period. Take it over a 10-year period, say that we'll look at this and we'll review it. And if bums on seats go down, then we change it. We make the league bigger. If clubs have if the gap is widening financially, we then change it so that we can get, if youth are not getting the opportunity at all the major top 10 teams, we then have to change it. You have to think about what's best for football. You've got to remember as well, in this part of history, we're just on the journey of what has been the history of Scottish football. We're just enjoying our moment in time. Can you think, there's bound to be people on this channel that could remember clubs having full houses. Clubs like Dunfermline packing out every single week. Having fantastic managers. The game has changed since then, and I think that Sky Television hasn't helped at all. And I think that there's been a serious reduction in fans going to games in Scotland due to the fact that more and more football's on television. When I was growing up, you never got anyone supporting Man United. You never got anyone supporting Liverpool. You never got anyone supporting fucking Chelsea, God forsake. You never got anyone. I never knew anyone in Scotland that supported an English team. It just didn't happen at all. You supported your team, and that was it. They say support your local club is a thing that fans always say in Scotland. And support your local club. Fuck the Glasgow too. Support your local team. Well, what about all the local people that don't support their local team? All the people from Falkirk that support Man United, all the people from Erskine that support Liverpool, all the people from Glasgow that fucking don't support any of the two, and all the ones from Aberdeen who support a fucking Swedish team or a Danish team, who knows. I just think it's doing itself an injustice, the Scottish game. Just going to jump into the comments. Bums on seats, tangerines on park. Yep, exactly. Dan Cassidy says, always, Stephen, you're okay. Brown Warrior says, Baz, it's about making money, and they don't give an F about the misty-eyed version of football most fans want or yearn for. Good comment, Brown Warrior. Something today says, Sky never got over the Santana deal. Yes, it didn't, and it's fucked Scottish football ever since. John Keenan says, watch this channel from the start, and as many other Celtic content channels out there, this is far the best. Thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you for that. No, seriously, thank you. Baz, who's your local club? In Spain, it would be Elche. Well, there is a local club, but it's good that. Back home, it would have been, there wasn't a local club because I stayed in Glenrothes, it was a new town. Didn't have a local club. Well, it did have a little thingy though. But the reason that I support Celtic is when your dad's running about with Roy Aitken when you're a kid. When your old man's running about with Roy Aitken and Bobby Lennox and these people are in your life as a kid, it's hard not to support Celtic. Do you know? My dad grew up a Dunfermline supporter. He went to Dunfermline as a kid because that was his local team. He can remember as a kid, you know, some fantastic games in Dunfermline. But when you grow, from a very, very young age, and I mean really young age, like 8 years, I can remember, I think the first picture of me in my Celtic top was when I was about 6 years old. But anyway. And plus it was all fucking Protestants that fucking went to the likes of Rafe Rovers and shit. I couldn't support, if I didn't support Celtic, coming from where I come from, I would have more than likely have been a Hibby. I would have been a Hibby if I didn't support Celtic. Because I remember there was a lot of guys who were Hibbies back in the day. And now they're, funnily enough, they're Rangers fans. I know who you fucking are. Baz, did you ever go to Third Lanark? No, it was Boston done. Cheeky bastard. My local team is Troon Juniors, so can't compare it to Celtic, even though we're from Glasgow originally. There we go. Wasn't Martin Buchanan's one of the first Scots moved down south? Typhoon went Scots Day. 14-team league makes more sense, Baz. 2 up, 2 down, and a 1 in the playoff place. Plenty of half and half hats and scarves on sale in the 80s, Baz. Well, it was more Everton, Brown Warrior. There was half and half. It was only Everton that I've ever seen. We had an affiliation with Everton back in the 80s. And I didn't like that back then. I never got it. I never got this love with Everton as a young kid. Maybe some of the older ones can tell us what it was all about. But the only ones that I can really remember with Everton was Everton back in the 1990s. My local team is Hamilton, but most of Hamilton is a Celtic town. Yeah, it is. Soccer Legendino. The Hamilton bus is one of the best buses out there. I know the guy that runs that. I know quite a few of the guys that go in the Hamilton bus, and the Hamilton supporters bus is one of the best buses out there. And I will say that. I will be, it's fantastic guys on the Hamilton bus, put it that way. The same with the Bells Hill bus. Bells Hill local team. Is the Bells Hill bus still on the go, actually? I'm 2 miles from Queen's Park and 3 miles from Celtic Park. 5 miles from Snake Mountain, says Big Des. My local team was Celtic, says Eb.T. Celts Big Rabbi. My local team, the Holy Family Primary Team. It's funny we're now talking about local teams. Anyway, if you want to vote, has the SPFL improved over the last 25 years? Right, for those that have said yes in the comments, tell me why. Seriously, tell me why. Why do you think that the SPFL has improved over the last 25 years? 25 years ago, you had more of a competition between, I'm going to say it, Celtic and Rangers. My local team died, lol. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, the Motherwell Tavern bus, yep, all top guys, they are that. Mad weather will burst. I know a lot of guys. I've done that one. Monty used to drive the Barrel Select Club bus back in the day. Apparently, bus. Oh Jesus! Dear goodness me. Anyway, one of the Daily Rags has put out an article this morning saying 9 bubbling paydays from 34 million blockbuster to forgotten flops will leave Celtic with a bursting war chest this summer. Get back on that, sorry. After another season where Celtic have been crowned Premier League champions with a treble in touching distance. Yep, I'll need to change that, won't I? I will need to change that to 55 times Scottish Championship and treble winners. Yeah, I'll need to change that. I'll need to leave it once. I can't change it before. I'm not going to touch fate. Got a lot of respect for Aberdeen and what they achieved at the beginning of the season, and it's not going to be an easy game, Aberdeen, in the final. Trebles within touching distance. Aberdeen are standing in the champions' way of a domestic clean sweep of everything. Again, it's boring. It's tedious. I'll take boring and tedious all day long. With the sun slowly setting on the campaign, punters are already desperate to see more success in the Glasgow East End. Having impressed in the Champions League this term, Celtic will now have to navigate a playoff to reach the Europe Elite, which means getting the transfer done quick and simple. Folk upstairs. Moves in the upcoming window could be funded to host a potential paydays, with Jeremy Frimpong to offer the largest cut with a minimum £34 million asking price. It's expected that Frimpong will go for a lot more than that. There is a massive 30% sell-on clause. It means if he goes for 11 million, Celtic would get £11 million just from Jeremy Frimpong this summer. On the same note, Alexandre Bernabe has been, as we spoke about last night, Alexandre Bernabe has been linked with a team in Spain and a big money move from South America that could see Celtic, it's been suggested that they have a smaller bit of commission coming off that one, but it is another add-on that could come in. So we're currently sitting at, say, around 13 million to come in just from player sales of players that have left the club. And then you've got Marco Tilio, who his appearance, he only had 2 appearances at Celtic before he was sent back to Melbourne City. Celtic would be looking to recoup the 1.5 million paid for him, who admits talks over a permanent departure have taken place. So Marco Tilio has admitted that talks have taken place for him to leave Celtic altogether and stay down under. Gustav Lagerbielke, the door has been left open for him to stay at FC 20. Gustav Lagerbielke, we all know the story behind him. He was a player that was told by Brendan Rodgers a couple of winter transfer windows back, go and find yourself another team, lad. He did. He thought he had done what he always wanted to do. He wanted to go and play in Italy, and the door was slammed shut on that transfer move. The door was slammed shut on that transfer move as Cameron Carter-Vickers went out injured again and again. But the Swede is looking to take his chance and go to FC 20 full time. Celtic are looking to recoup the $3 million paid out on the Swedish centre back. So it's all going to come down to whether or not the Celtic get their £3 million back, and FC 20 value at the same kind of money. Lewis Palma, Stephen Welsh are other players who Lewis Palma, he was offered a route out of Celtic. Stephen Welsh is out on loan. I think that we all know that Stephen Welsh, both those players would be looking at around about £3 to £4 million each. That all adds up. You know, that's over 20 odd million that we're sitting at already with those players that have been mentioned that could come into Celtic. And then you've got Kwon, who's at Hibs. Odom Owen has said that he wants to come back to Celtic in December and be part of the team. In terms of outgoing, Johnny Kenny, it's saying hasn't made his mark. He's not been given time, and I think that's unfair for them to mention Johnny Kenny in this article. Johnny Kenny hasn't made his mark in the top scenes since he left Shamrock Rovers. I think it's unfair to call that one. I think he's definitely seen as one for the future. But then there is, when it comes down to it, there's the Rio Hatate side of it, and we just hope and pray that a deal doesn't come in for Dyson Maeda, because the first £25 million offer for Dyson Maeda, and Celtic are saying sayonara, sayonara, whatever they say in Japan to say goodbye. Are you aware that you're eligible to drive Sevco? What? No, Brown Warrior. Sunshine Variety buses. What the fuck is Sunshine Variety buses? Has Odemon been getting a game in America? Yes, he has been. I think he has been, yeah. So we jump back into the comment section. You're right, Baz. The final will be no cakewalk. No, it won't. It won't. Steve Ross says, I'm from Glenoffice, no choice. He's a Glenoffice lad. I'm from Glenoffice, no choice. I guess it would have been East Fife, but they refused to move here. I remember when East Fife it was in talks for them to move to Glenoffice Stadium. It was a good stadium back in the day, but it's kind of run down a bit. But a lot of East Fife guys back in the day were also Hibbies, and now a lot of them are just Huns. Just Huns. Stephen Ross, what part of Glenoffice are you from, mate? What part of Glenoffice are you from? I grew up in Pachuca and then stayed in Rimbolton, stayed in South Parks and stayed in Newcastle before I finally moved. Frimpong Money, I like Ohm. Hope he gets his chance. Says Kaiser Dan Cassie. He says, "We'll win the treble. We'll win the treble. Let's just get the three. Let's just get this game out of the way first, and not do any disrespect to the teams that are in the league, because there's still a lot of league football to play, and we want to try and finish with as much points as possible. Right? I need 8 votes. I need 8 votes to shut down this poll. We're sitting on 92 votes. Has the SPFL improved over the last 25 years? 80% say no, 20% say yes. I'm not seeing a lot of comments on people telling me why. I want to know why. Tell me in the comments why you think that the league has improved over the last 20 years. 30 million for Dyson Maeda, or 40 million at least. Would you slap a 30 million price tag on Maeda, says John. With 2 years left on his contract, there's not a lot of room for negotiation. If he had 3 years left on his contract, I would say yes. Brown Warriors just enlightened me. Sunshine Variety Buses were a charity who used to run transport for special needs people. And well, there you go, I'm not from that end of the country. Kaiser says 56 million. Cadam's a cracking wee area. I noticed that the old Ring of Staines is back open. The old Ring of Staines. That was a pub back in the day. But yeah, I've got family who stay up in Cadam. I can remember when Cadam was nowhere near as big as it was. We used to walk up Falkland Hill. When there was, where all the Cadam estate was there, but then you would walk out the back and then walk up through woods and everything before Formant Hills and all that was all built. God, back in the day when Glenoffice was tiny. Glenoffice was tiny back then. It was. Back in the late 70s and the early 80s, Glenoffice was tiny compared to now. I think I've still got maps at my mum's of Glenoffice when it was the old street maps in Glenoffice back then. Everton are a Catholic team. Liverpool Reds have always had links with the Huns, said Alex. Rimbolton, 1972, now Cascabern. There you go. Lived in Massey for a while. You lived in Massey, so did I. I left that bit out. So, who do you know? What age is he in? Do you know Beastie and Kingy and that for Massey? That'll narrow down who I know. Tamak says Maeda's the modern day $40 million man. As we've had a good Celtic team with the bold Cameron Carter-Vickers in it, we need Ali Johnson, says. Yes. Kaiser, I would stick 50 million for Maeda. I don't think that with 2 years left on his contract, Celtic are playing a very, very fine game. You're not going to get 50 million for Dyson Maeda. You'll get 25 million max. Because clubs know that with 2 years left on his contract, when it goes into the final year, you're then down to, I mean, you may get a total deal worth about 30 million, maybe. But I don't know. Kaiser's definitely going for the crazy, crazy money. Oh, I've just missed the poll. Has went over 104 votes. 104 votes. If we price Maida at 30 million, we've got to raise his wage to reflect the price tag. Exactly. I mean, that's why we ultimately sold Jota for what we did, because there was a clause in Jota's contract that said if a bid come in for 25 million for him and Celtic did not accept it, his wages would go up to 45 grand a week. Now, I wonder what he is on now, because he won't be on 45 grand a week. So were Celtic actually really clever in selling him to Saudi Arabia, knowing that he's not probably going to make any dent in a European context and that he's going to need to come back to I think it was clever. Yeah. Right, let's finish up that poll. It is sitting at... has the SPFL improved over the last 25 years? 18% say yes. I just think it is weird. I don't think it has. But if you're watching this video back and not on the live, tell us in the comment if you think that it has improved. 81% said no, it's not, and we lost 1% to the yes by the looks of it. Anyway, Brown Warrior says, I think that Celtic will come to an agreement with Dyson and give him a massive wage rise and slap a belter of a clause on his contract, way over 30 million. They need to give him a new contract then, Brown Warrior, if that happens. They have to give him a new contract. He can't be allowed... I mean, I said this with Greg Taylor. He can't be allowed. There's no one that's been allowed to run down their contract since Henrik Larsson. Henrik Larsson was allowed to leave Celtic because he gave so much to Celtic. He gave so much. And there hasn't been another player that has given so much to Celtic in recent years in terms of goals and etc. And he turned down the 15 million approach from Manchester United and Alex Ferguson saying, no, I want to stay at Celtic. You know what? I want to give back to Celtic. Car-free drive. Car-free drive. Jesus. That's a blast for the past. That's a blast for the past. So anyway, yes. 30 million. We need to give him a massive wage increase. The only thing the SFA have done good over the last 25 years is sacking Farry. Saying the wee bonnet would have sacked him. Give Maida a new song with more words. This Sligo boy. Your mic's breaking up, Baz. That's because it knows that I'm well over the half hour mark, and probably because I'm tapping the table. That's me done and dusted for this morning. I'm not sure if there's going to be a live tonight, depending on what happens today, later on today. Anyway, Maida has to be on 50k a week. Do you think so? Anyway, on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.